Greetings and salutations. So I want to talk to you today about this Mosin Nagant that I bought a few years ago, and it's been an ongoing project. And I just got a couple of parts in to kind of wrap this thing up, and I want to show it to you. I bought this gun at the local gun store here a couple of years ago, about the time that the price of these things started to come up off $100. I paid about $180 for this one. And I approached this gun with the assumption that I was going to modify it. I knew I wasn't leaving its original condition. But the first thing I did was I refinished the stock. And it's not a very attractive piece of wood, but I refinished it anyway. I used urethane. And there's spots on this gun on this stock where some of the finish didn't adhere, because there's just, these things are just so soaked with cosmoline, and it gets into the pores of the wood, and then as it heats up, that cosmoline gets forced out, and urethane just won't stick to oil. So, but that was one of the first things I did, is refinish the stock. And then the second thing I did was a simple little modification. I'm not going to show you the how-to. If you want to know how to do a trigger job on a Mosin, just go up the top there in the search bar and type in Mosin Nagant trigger job, and I'll show you how to do this for, if you bought the parts, maybe $5. But if you look at the stock Mosin trigger here, cock it. You know what slop there is in that trigger. And one of the other things I did is I put a bent bolt on it. The stock Mosin bolts, if you don't know, stick straight out. They come about an inch and a half, 2 inches out. And so when you open the bolt, it's sticking straight up. So if you ever wanted to put a scope, a regular rifle scope on it, the bolt would hit the scope. So you need to put a turn down bolt on it. I'm using a different scope, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Take the bolt out, and if you've never taken a Mosin down before, it's really simple. You got this screw here, rear tang. If I had the upper handguard on it, there's two rings, one there and one there, and you slip them off. They won't fit over the front sight, so you just let them dangle out there. You take that off. You take the magazine and trigger guard out, and then it's just a matter of pulling the stock off. Okay, so first things first, let's look at the scope mount here. What I have here is a long eye relief scope mount, and basically, to install that, all I had to do was drive out this pin where this bolt is, and there's a spring that sits down in there, and this is the front sight. This is adjustable from 1 to 2,000 meters. So that was really just simple as pulling out this pin and then putting these on, and there's a couple of set screws here that put pressure against the sight base, and that locks it in. So here's the trigger job. Basically, you take a chip clip and you break it apart, and you take the spring out of it, and then you would put this spring inside the trigger here, inside there, around that axis pin, and that would keep spring tension on the trigger. But what I ended up doing is buying a Timney trigger. Now, when I bought this rifle, and surplus ammo was, $80 for 440 rounds for a Spam can, the market was flooded with these things, and they were selling for $120 all day long. Timney came out with a trigger system for them. When I first started looking at these, they were like $130. Well, I wasn't going to spend $130 on a Timney trigger. Well, recently, the price has come down on these a little bit, and I got this one on eBay for $85. So for $85, I figured I'd go ahead and do it. What I like about this trigger is that it has a safety lever built right into it, and it's easy to install. You just stick it in here like so. You use the original screw that held the sear spring in. And then you use the original pin and stick that pin in there. Okay, so that's it. Timney trigger's in. Tighten the screw down. And the next thing it is, I bought an ATI stock for it, and you have to, fit this. It doesn't fit every gun perfectly. You have to create a little bit of space for the safety if you use a Timney trigger. And I just did that with a Dremel. Put it back together. Use the same screws. Now what you have is a single stage trigger with about a 3.5 pound pull. That is so nice. And then you also have a safety, which locks the trigger out. Now, you can still use the Russian safety, but it's kind of a pain in the butt. So I was doing a little bit of reading. I found an article that talked about the 5 best scout scopes that are available. And this happens to be one from AIM Sports, and is touted as the best scout scope under $100. So I found this one on Amazon for about $50, and then I got some universal rings from UTG. I think these were like $13. Let's look at the scope. Don't eat that. Sweet. Alright, there you have it. I got a little cheek pad on the thing so I get the right cheek weld for the scope, but let's take it out, shoot some of that military surplus Russian ammo through this thing, and see if we can't get this scope dialed in. Alright, here this morning. Turns out I had some, PPU, some good brass case, non-corrosive ammo here. There's 182 grain full metal jacket. I think I've got 38 rounds of this. Hopefully, I can get on paper with 38 rounds of this. But I've got a target set up at 50 yards, and we'll see if it's close at 50. And if it's dialed in at 50, we'll move back another 50 to 100 and see if we can't hit the target. that's loose. I guess I'm not quite done with this rifle project because this scope mount, this Picatinny rail system, kind of blows. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I run 20 rounds through this thing, and I've got the scope cranked all the way to the right, and I'm about 6-8 inches still to the right of the target. Well, every time I shoot, this thing loosens up. Not only up and down like that, but laterally. So this mount system sucks. I was kind of afraid of that, but I think I only paid $6 for that scope mount. What do you expect? So I think what I'm gonna do is, I don't know, maybe I'll take it up to the gun store and see what they say. There's a couple of different options. I can have them solid mount to the receiver, or I can have, I can take this rear sight base off, and there's like a dovetail cut into the barrel, and I can get a mount that clamps to that. This sucks. I wanted that thing to be done. Oh well, it is what it is. Maybe next time, guys. In the meantime, you have fun, stay safe, shoot straight, keep your powder dry, and have a splendid day.